Hello, folks. You're very welcome to the NFL show here on the Under Center podcast. Dara with you. Delighted to be back after a few weeks hiatus. I am currently joined by Rian Malloy. Rian, how are you, buddy?
I'm excellent this fine Tuesday evening.
Yeah, you seem to be at the moment the only ever present on the show.
Seems
If
to be
not,
all
if
right.
I
Even the weeks that we missed, I was the one who was like, "Yeah, I'll be on." But yeah, sure.
I love the dedication. I love the dedication. Unfortunately, a couple of weeks has gone by where I have been otherwise engaged and I have not been able to make it. But I'm back here for the rest of it. Really looking forward to it. To this evening show, and of course, as many shows as we do down the line, because we're coming close to probably the first big milestone of the NFL season. That's, of course, the NFL trade deadline, which is the 4th of November. So that is next Tuesday, this day week it's going to be. So plenty of moves. We hope between now and next week. We've already seen the Rams. They are they have been the first team to be active, as they always are when it comes to trade deadline. They acquired Roger McCreary from the Titans, cornerback, and so that'll help them in the cornerback room for sure. Who else will be traded? We shall see. There's a lot of teams now, and I'd say this weekend is going to be huge in terms of what we're going to see in terms of teams selling or buying when it comes to the trade deadline. I'm sure there's a few teams that already have deals lined up and they're just waiting to see how this weekend goes if they want to pull the trigger on that. So plenty to happen between now and then. And we never know. We might see the Panthers do something, might see the Seahawks do something. We'll just wait and see. But away from NFL stuff, you know, this past week, if we want to stick to the Irish side, this past week we saw, not we saw, I saw, well, we saw the Rhinos got back to training. But they are their second week actually of rookie camp. It was my first week back. Delighted to get back into the swing of things, but I wasn't the only person on this show that showed up to Castleknock and decided to take part for a while. Rian, you are making the steps or this steps, yeah, 4 steps now to get back into playing a bit of football.
Yeah, 100%. It's been 2 long years. A lot of recovery in that time on the old ankle. But look, I came down to the session. Had a few snaps at wide receiver. Did a bit of stuff. So everything feels good after that. So yeah, hopefully it's the first step in the comeback season.
Well, that's it. Jeez, it'd be a better comeback than Saquon's last year when he coming back from the Eagles. So all you have to do is rush for nearly 2,000 yards next season.
Yeah,
That's all
easy,
in
easy.
half the games. So it's an easy when you have an O lineman like this blocking for you, it's going to be so easy.
Yeah, absolutely,
That's all. That's all
absolutely.
I'd say. It's mostly made up actually of ex-pirates at this stage.
Yeah, it
It's
seems to
three
be all
fifths.
right.
It's three
The
fifths
interior is very
ex-pirates.
much
Yeah.
piracy. Mind you, none of them played on the except for Keith, of course. None of them played on the offensive line. So yeah, you and Lee were on
That's
the
true.
defensive side of the ball when I was in there.
That's true. Me and Lee were still having high hopes of being these great defensive line players. Lee probably still actually has a future there for sure. For me, probably time has passed on that.
Fair enough. But look,
I
I mean,
Yeah.
center is a great position. You get to touch the ball on every play. So yeah, you're one of only two players to do it.
Sometimes not even two players do it when I'm
Hmm.
snapping. Sometimes just one. Anyway, away from the local side, let's go on to talk about a couple of things NFL related. The first one we're going to actually talk about is the Jets. They secured their first win of the season, beating the Cincinnati Bengals 39 points, to 38 in a roller coaster game in Cincinnati on Sunday. Justin Fields shoved owners Woody Johnson's words right back at him in a fantastic performance offensively to get the Jets to win. Him and Bryce Hall were the two standouts on the for the Jets on that day. For the Bengals, though, one step forward equals two steps back for them. And it's been like that for the last couple of years. After beating the Steelers last week in dramatic fashion, in their own dramatic fashion, I should say, in the Thursday night football, everyone thinking that they are back in the playoff picture, maybe in the AFC North picture. They take that step backwards again in a game where they were up so much so early. I just want to get this back up because I had it here. They were 10-0 up at the end of the first quarter. They were 24-13 up at half time. At the end of the third quarter, they were 31-16 up. And then they just concede 23 points in the fourth quarter to the Jets. And, you just wonder now with the Bengals, because it's so obvious to us, Rian, that that defense and that O-line has been a problem for so long on that team, but yet they continue to do nothing with it. Their best defender, they sort of made sweat it out all offseason in terms of wanting to get a new contract, and Trey Hendrickson. The O-line, instead of getting highly valued and high rated offensive linemen in, they decide to pay their two wide receivers to keep them on the team, with their obviously star quarterback who now can't stay fit because said offensive line can't keep him healthy. You just look at the Bengals and you thought maybe because before that Super Bowl appearance, we always said, it's the Bengals. We always expect them to do Bengals things. And you thought when they made that Super Bowl, they turned the corner. They're going to be a serious franchise. But to be fair, apart from an odd few performances here and there, I don't think they've even looked close to even challenging for a Super Bowl since.
No, they certainly haven't. I mean, when Joe Burrow was in, right, he does amazing things. He's electric. Like that run that he had at the end of last year in those 6 or 7 games where he came back, he was the best player in the league, bar none. But like you said, they can't seem to keep him healthy, and I think that does very much boil down to the O line. They have not invested in that since they went to that Super Bowl, and that was really the point. After that Super Bowl, we were like, they could do with a better O line here to kind of improve the run game and give Joe Burrow that little bit of a run game to rely on, maybe play action off the back of that. But as well, going back to what you were saying about the defense, I mean, like, they sweated out Trey Hendrickson, but not only that, they sweated out their first round draft pick on the defensive side of the ball with some like bogus language in the contract that they wouldn't budge over. You'd think a team like this, who have, like we've said it for 3 years on the bounce now, that the Bengals are good on offenses, but terrible on defense. You'd think that they'd want to get their marquee defensive player from this draft signed up on the board, ready to go as quickly as possible, and they just haven't done that.
Yeah, and you can sort of see it in the performances with Shamar Stewart so far. He hasn't shone, and he's had so far one tackle all season. Ironically enough, that was actually against the Jets last week, so at least he did make the box score. But yeah, it's just it's tough, and you look at it there now. It's going to, unless things dramatically change. And if I look at the Cincinnati Bengals schedule, the games coming up against the Bears, Steelers, Patriots, Ravens, Bills, it's very likely that they could have another losing season. And then, it's very likely that in that case that they're going to be back at square one looking for a new head coach, because I think Zach Taylor was quite lucky to keep his job after last year. And now, if it's another losing season without playoffs, you can very easily see the management structure at the Bengals deciding, you know what, we gotta make a change here.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think Zach Taylor's already too long in that job not to be seeing results from a star-studded roster, let's face it. So yeah, I think he's certainly going to come under pressure, and if they don't start winning quick, then I think he's probably gone before the end of the season. I think that was the whole point of bringing in Joe Flacco, was to kind of save his ass a little bit. But as good as Joe Flacco has been playing, he can only do so much to aid that team, which is pretty miserable on the defensive side of the ball.
And the fact that they have a quote unquote de facto general manager, and not an official one, in Duke Tobin. He's actually the director of player personnel, but it's more Mike Brown, the owner, who was also GM, sort of similar to a Jerry Jones situation in Dallas. There's going to be no accountability above Zach Taylor in that sense, because if the owner's a GM, he's not going to sack himself. So it's always going to fall on the head coach's head. And in this case, it's Zach Taylor. And, as the seasons go on and you look at where they're finishing and how the seasons are going, it seems more and more that Super Bowl season especially was just a stars aligning, maybe blip, rather than a change in franchise fortune.
Well, because I distinctly remember they weren't very good in the regular season that year. They kind of snuck into the playoffs as a wildcard team, and then just had a kind of Linsanity run to the Super Bowl after that. It was a little bit of a surprise at that stage. So yeah, when you look at Zach Taylor's tenure, there's not really been a whole lot of success thus far.
Moving over to the Jets side of things, Fion's not on with us at the moment. I know he wanted to talk about the Jets, but even before they actually won the game on Sunday, he wanted to sort of stick up for the Jets a little bit, and especially for Aaron Glenn. Knows it's been a tough start, and thought maybe he could work on something. But, we should have kind of seen this coming, especially with all these comments from Woody Johnson about putting down the quarterback Justin Fields in terms of his ability, or his ability to be a QB1 in the team. The fact that Tyrod Taylor, who many speculated would have been the starter this week if he didn't miss the game through injury, means that Justin Fields had to come back in. And good for Justin, because he's been around a couple of teams. He's been cast aside a few times by those teams. For him to be able to come back and lead the team to their first win of the season. But my question is for you then. I would have asked Fionn this. Do you think this now is the turning point in the Jets season? Or do you think that this is maybe, again, like I mentioned with the Bengals and their Super Bowl season being a flash in the pan, is this win for the Jets a flash in the pan, and they'll go back to, I guess, your regularly scheduled programming next week, in terms of, not even next week because they're on a bye next week. They face actually I think the Browns the week after in New York. So would it be going back to sort of struggling, or do you think maybe this could be a turn?
It's difficult to say. The Jets are by no means a good football team. I do have my questions about Justin Fields, but I think he played exactly as Aaron Glenn and that offensive staff envisaged going into this season, where he kind of manages the game, makes the throws underneath where he needs to, and uses his God-given abilities running the football, which he did very well in the game at the weekend. So yeah, I think he's good enough to lead an offense in the NFL. But if we look at the results thus far for the Jets, they've been involved in some very, very close games. Like, a lot of them are single scores, a lot of them are even 2 or 3 point losses. So that defense has been putting up serious numbers this season, putting a lot of pressure on quarterback. And as Al always says, if he was here, I'd say the same thing. Defense gets you places in the NFL. So I don't think the Jets are done winning this season purely based off the back of that stellar defense, because they can really play. So they just need the offensive side of the ball to run the ball well, get Justin Fields not making too many rash decisions or uncalled for mistakes. And I can see them winning. I can even see them winning this week, going back-to-back victories, because that Browns team is not up to much either.
Next week, this week they face the
Sorry, beg
bye,
your pardon.
which
Yeah.
every team loses against the bye. But actually, let's talk about the Cleveland Browns and let's move on. Of course, they are the Jets' opponents in 2 weeks' time because they are fresh off their sixth defeat of the season, going down to the Patriots, 32 points to 13. Standout defensive lineman Myles Garrett recorded a franchise record 5 sacks of Drake May in the game, but it was all for naught as the Browns lose again and sit bottom of the AFC North at 2-6. Garrett was visibly upset at the team's offensive output and said he would have happily traded his 5 sacks for a win on Sunday. But what I want to have a chat about is if we cast our mind back to the off season, that whole 90s sitcom where everything fuzzes, we're all going back. Garrett put in a trade request to the Browns in the off season. He wanted out of Cleveland. He was looking, but suddenly changed his tune about staying once a new contract was put on the table. So the question I have for you, Rain, is do you feel sorry for Garrett? He's been at the Browns since 2017 when he was drafted first overall in that year's draft. This season is no different to any other season he's had with the Browns, apart from 1 year with Baker Mayfield where he made the playoffs. He wanted to move. We thought he was finally going to get that move. But when the chance of more money, a better contract was offered to him, suddenly he changes his tune and he's happy to stay. So I guess to sum it up, and I quote JT in this, cry me a river.
I think you're right, to be honest. I thought it was the right time for Garrett to get out at the start of this season. We knew there was going to be turmoil within this Browns team going into this season with 4 quarterbacks on the roster, one of them being Shedeur Sanders, another being a rookie. It was never going to be an easy run for the Browns this season. And I think with the trajectory of Myles Garrett's career, if he's like everybody else in the league, he's probably looking to win a Super Bowl at some time in his lifetime. I don't fully recall how long that deal was that he signed, but it's probably somewhere in the region of 5 years, which means he's not going anywhere for at least 3, just with the dead cap hit. So it's tough. It's tough to see a player of his caliber be kind of wasted on the Browns, who have been perennially awful. But at the same time, he went and got that bag, and there's not a whole lot he can do about it at this stage.
Yeah, but it wasn't as if it was his first bag that he got. He did
Right,
sign a
exactly. Yeah.
huge contract before this, and then he just got to sign an even bigger one that eclipsed, obviously, TJ Watt's deal that he got just before that as well. I do find it hard for me to have sympathy in situations like this for players where they have made a vocal beforehand that they want to leave. It seems as though everything is going to happen where they are going to leave. And you always come up to this point where do you prefer the glory or do you prefer the money? And look, I totally understand. It's a short career. You have to make as much money as you can in that short time if you want to be set up for life, or you want to set up your kids for life, or if you want to set up your kids for life, But at a certain point, if you go to a team and you have success, you know, it's not just the contract where you're going to start making the money. It's the endorsements. It's the other things that can help supplement that in a way too. And, players nowadays are a lot more savvy when it comes to money, and they have people that help them invest them in the right areas so that they are set up for life no matter what. And you think of you know, look, it's a bad comparison, but it's the only one I can come to in my head right now. But if you look at Tom Brady, he always got team friendly deals. He always picked up team friendly deals that would help build a better team, that would help them continue winning and winning and winning. I'm not saying that Myles Garrett has to take a team friendly deal to help them start winning because they've had money before. They didn't know how to spend it properly. So I can understand him not trusting the Browns with extra money and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
why would I let you have extra money for you to burn it on, you know, I don't know,
Mhm.
burn it on, Deshaun Watson, who's never going to play snaps for you, and you're going to give him the highest guaranteed contract or the only all guaranteed contract in NFL history. So I want, we all want the best players to be able to have success. I don't think anyone, unless you're a Steelers or a Bengals or a Ravens fan, I don't think anyone would begrudge like Garrett getting himself a ring, because I think his performances deserve it. I think has the most amount of sacks for someone before the age of 30 in NFL
Mhm.
history. I think that was one of the stats that showed up on the screen at the weekend. So, you know, you're giving like that's why I'm so frustrated with him, because like you have this opportunity, you had it in the off season that you could have moved somewhere, you could have gotten it. I think he had a no trade clause in his contract anyway, so he could have chosen where he wanted to go. It wasn't as if they were going to send him to, who's another bottom dweller on the NFC side.
I
The
don't
say
want
the
to say
Cardinals. You're going to say the Cardinals. Oh, sorry. Yeah. See, I didn't think you aren't totally bottom dwellers now. You're doing
no,
okay.
not at
Just
the moment. Not at the moment.
not at the moment, but you know what I mean. You're not going to send them to a Cardinals or something like that, where they're not going to exactly go and win a chip anytime soon. So, but your thoughts anyway, Rain, on that too.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And if he was genuinely serious about getting out of Cleveland at the beginning of the year, it's not like when Cleveland put this contract on the table, he was like, "Oh, I'm not going to see this anywhere else that I go." If if he goes anywhere, he's going to get an enormous contract, right? It might not be like we're talking maybe 1 or 2% less somewhere else, but at the end of the day, he's still going to be one of the top paid defensive players in the league, and he's going to be at a contender. So I'm not sure he was ever serious about leaving Cleveland. I think he just wanted that extra money. So yeah, I don't know. It's a head scratcher for me.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, and I'm just trying to have a look with his contract as well. You know, um, if this new contract, so if the Browns decided within the next week, say, to trade Garrett, it's a significant dead cap hit for the Browns.
Mm.
Um, you know, it's not giving me the exact number. Um, but of course, like if you didn't know, it was a 5 year, 125 million extension that he signed in 2020. Um, and he got a new deal. What was his latest deal? At the weekend or at the off season? I can't see it there, but I have it here. Sorry. Uh, nope, I don't have it at all. But anyway, I think the extension may be similar to AJ Brown, because I know he was the source of some rumor of leaving the Eagles. The way his contract is now, I think it's impossible for teams to be able to trade for him now, because of the amount of dead cap that they're going to get to have
Mm.
to deal with. And I don't think the Browns are going to be able to do that, because they'll never be able to get a replacement in that sense. So, um, what was it? Yeah, a 4 year, $160 million extension, 40 million per year. That's what his latest extension was. So I think that is why. Um, Let me just have a look. See here, trading out would trigger. Yeah, so a dead cap for the Browns, if they were to trade him now, would be 68 million in the 2026 season.
They're not going to be able
You
to
know,
afford to pay their
they
first
can't.
rounder at
Yeah,
that rate.
yeah, yeah. Well, multiple first rounders that they would probably get for
Right.
him anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you would never be able to afford that. You can't absorb those dead cap costs. So Yeah, unfortunately, as much as probably he would like to be traded now at this point, he kind of has fucked himself in
Yeah,
that
he's
sense.
made his own bed and now he needs to sleep in it.
Yeah, yeah. So tough one for him. Tough one for the Browns. They, like you mentioned, I know they are 2-6 in the month. They play. They're actually also on a bye this week, so they come back. Both the Jets and the Browns are going to come back from their bye and face each other next week in New York. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see if some moves maybe for the rounds that they can make in the offseason. Quickly, your thoughts on actually while we're talking about them, Dylan Gabriel and how he has stepped into the starter role. Hasn't lit it up, but hasn't exactly been tearing it down either.
No, I think he's done fine. He's walking into quite a tough situation with the Browns where nobody really stands out on that offensive side of the football as being like top tier. I get you have David Njoku there. He's a pretty good tight end, but he's not in that elite level up there with like your George Kittles or your Sam Laportas or anything like that. So yeah, it's a tough situation for him to be going into. He was never the like strong arm quarterback even in college, so he is focusing a lot on that underneath kind of stuff, short to mid range passing. He's not making mistakes, which is important, or less mistakes than Flacco was when he was starting for the Browns. So that's a ringing endorsement in my books. I see enough potential there for him to be a good, maybe not great starting quarterback in the NFL for the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's good. Well, maybe there's something positive then coming out of this season. Hopefully for the Browns, if it doesn't involve um, exactly getting wins, at least maybe it can involve something like seeing their QB of the future taking part there. But let's talk instead of the future. Let's talk about the present, and let's talk about the team with the best record in the NFL. And that is the Indianapolis Colts, who are 7-1 after beating the Titans 38-14 at the weekend. Jonathan Taylor is not just playing like an offensive player of the year candidate, an MVP candidate with 3 touchdowns at the weekend, 2 rushing, 1 passing. Daniel Jones is a man reborn in the blue of Indianapolis. We keep waiting. Well, I do anyway, personally, Ryan. I keep waiting every week for the inevitable blow up of Daniel Jones and the blow up of the Colts. I'm waiting. We're 8 weeks in and still haven't gotten it.
Yeah.
Their one loss this year, you wouldn't even put on Daniel Jones so much. You'd put on, I can't remember the wide receiver's name, but he dropped it outside, like 1 yard outside of the end
Oh,
zone.
yeah. Was it Adonai
And
Mitchell
they
who did that?
I think so. I think you're right. I think it's Adonai Mitchell. I think you're right. If it's not, I apologize. But they end up losing by a touchdown. They beat up. Now, Fionn, or was it yourself, Ryan, that wanted to make sure we put this caveat in for them? Like the teams they've beaten along the way do include, the Titans twice, the Cardinals, the Raiders, and the Dolphins.
Mm.
But on the flip side, they've also beaten the Chargers and the Broncos as well. So there are some good wins involved with those other teams that they are expected to beat.
Yeah, and I think as well the Broncos have been pretty stingy on the defensive side of the ball, but they continue to put up numbers. Like if you just look at the offensive output by each of their top players at the moment, I mean, Jonathan Taylor is, if he continues at this rate, going to go for 2,400 scrimmage yards. He has more touchdowns than Saquon Barkley had all season last year, and we were talking about Saquon for MVP last season. Daniel Jones in franchise history has the third most passing yards by any quarterback at this stage of the season, and that's only behind Johnny Unitas twice, ahead of every Peyton Manning season for the Colts, ahead of every Andrew Luck season for the Colts. This offense can absolutely run the football, and they can pass the football as well. Daniel Jones has played exceptionally, and I think that's kind of probably what happens when you put a guy with all of those intangibles, like we saw him coming out of the draft, able to run the football, decent arm, strong arm. You put him in a terrible situation like the Giants, he starts seeing ghosts. You put him in a good situation with a good O line and a running back he can rely on. Now you have the recipe for a guy like him to go out and play confident football, and that's where he's at his best. So yeah, I mean, like for me, he's the forerunner for the MVP, if not Jonathan Taylor, ahead, I would say, of Josh Allen this season.
Yeah. It is going to be tougher though for the Colts coming up because with their 9 remaining games, 6 of those games are going to be against teams currently with winning records. So, it doesn't get any easier now. The 3 teams they face with losing records is actually going to be the Texans twice. So they you could call them a team with a losing record, but maybe not, if you know what I mean. They're missing the other team with the losing record that they face is the Falcons. Who the way they're
They're
playing at the
either
moment.
lightning hot or super cold. There's no in
Yeah,
between with them.
there is no in between. And again, on the other side of the team with the winning records, they do have to face the Jaguars twice, who are 4-3 at the moment as well. So that's they are going to be interesting matchups too. And with that, Texans, Jaguars, Colts, these 3 teams all vying for those positions in the AFC South, to a top of the division, either playoff position as well. So those are going to be some really, really tasty games coming up too. They actually start. Are they on a bye this week? They are not. Sorry, no, they are playing this week. They are at Pittsburgh against the Steelers, against a team, yes, with a winning record, but I guess we'll talk about the Steelers a little bit here, Rain, on this one. They did not look good on Sunday night.
They certainly did not. Just really poor
And I'm not
output
just
on the
talking
off.
about the jerseys. I'm talking about the
Yeah,
players
yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
I actually like the uniforms myself. I like wearing uniforms,
No.
but yeah, look, that they looked pretty rough at the weekend. Now that Packers team looked to have steadied the ship a little bit and are now looking once again like one of the better teams in the league. Certainly have the record to go along with that claim, but still they need to do better. I mean, a guy of Aaron Rodgers' tenure should be gelling quicker into an offense like this. It seems like they're just a little bit stagnant. I saw a good comment at the weekend that basically said if you're running the football like 10 times per drive, it becomes very, very difficult when you get down into the red zone to actually score. You want to be able to break off these 30, 40-yard runs or 30, 40-yard passes so as you don't need to deal with the red zone. If every drive for you is a long, methodical drive, you're going to run into scoring issues. And I think that's what the Steelers have this year once again under Tomlin. They're not going to have a losing season once again, but they need to be improving somewhere.
Yeah, I wouldn't jump on that bandwagon too quick that he won't have a losing season. It's just this is the like for a team that has assembled the most expensive defense in the NFL. For the last 2 weeks, especially since they have not since they've come off the bye, because they beat the Browns when they came off the bye. But the last 2 games conceding over 30 points in both, it's just not a good show for your team. If you look at the start of the season, they conceded 30 points against the Jets as well. They did it against the Seahawks too. This defense is probably not where it should be. And of course, with Mike Tomlin being the sort of defensive guy that he is, if his side and if his forte is not working right now, you're leaving it up to who's Arthur Smith is the OC at the moment. I don't know, Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers could be having a fallout really, really soon if things don't turn around.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said about that defense being so star-studded, I mean, like that defensive line is scary on paper, but I watched a few of the highlights from that game, and Jordan Love had so much time in the pocket. He should have been having to get that ball out within 3 seconds on every single snap because you have Cam Hayward and TJ Watt coming at you. You should not be able to deal with that level of rush and allow your quarterback to stand back there for 5 or 6 seconds at a go. That's where Jordan Love absolutely excels. And yeah, they just weren't able to get the pressure on him.
Last one of the last things we're going to have a chat about here because we're going to wrap it up soon. I don't know if you've noticed it, but I think everyone has. It's kind of hard not to because you can see the media narrative at the moment on the tush push has totally changed. You know, it's
Yeah.
gone from people trying to defend it as best they can to now everybody is asking for it to be banned. Just as other teams are starting to use it and use it effectively as well, just from like a home point of view, the Seahawks now have started doing it with tight end AJ Barner and their sort of well, not really sort of a tush push, but you know, a QB sneak in their end. But I think, yeah, probably a turning point. The NFL as well, I think we're kind of pissed off with teams and owners that they didn't vote to ban it in the off season. You could say like they were saying, you could see now in the last 2 weeks they were saying that they were going to really do a point of emphasis with the referees in terms of, you know, making sure there's no false starts or there's no offsides or there's no distances. But then again, the big turning point of the weekend with that tush push where it was clear, we all saw it. Came on Thibodeau, forced that ball out of Jalen Hurts' hand, fumbled it, had it, and it should have been able to either return it or just be called a turnover. But this forward progress bullshit that the referees call, because they never call forward progress when it gets held up at the goal line and then they have to push him over. They never call forward progress being stopped on that.
Yeah.
But they did on this one. There's such the inconsistencies in how it's calling. I think that's the thing that is going to kill the tush push. It's not teams complaining that they can't stop it, which was the narrative for media for a while. I think now we're seeing the media, and this is how the NFL now can attack this rule and how they can get rid of this rule is that they can say that it's just not being consistently reffed. So we have to remove it in the interest of fairness.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I don't know how they're going to do that from a rules standpoint, but I 100% agree with you. I don't really like, I've been avidly against the tush push since its inception, but I'm not against the play itself. I'm just against the blatant, maybe cheating is the wrong word, but bending of the rules that is done in that play to gain a yard or 2 yards. It's not very football like to have this play in your arsenal that you keep going to, like you can win a game with 100 yards of offense. That's not really the spirit of the game. But I don't have an issue with the play itself. I have an issue with just the way it's being called. Like we see the guards lining up offsides on most of the plays. False starts very, very often. But yeah, look, it just needs to be officiated properly. And the whole thing with the forward progress, I'm not sure how you rule that one either, because it's either as soon as he stops, then forward progress is stopped, or you allow the play to continue until it is done, and at that point stop it. But you can't have this in between nonsense.
No, and that's it. And I understand that referees are human as well. They're going to have their own interpretation of what is forward progress and what isn't, and what has been stopped and what hasn't. But the fact that it was so clear on Saturday that Thibodeau had Hurts, he had the ball. Hurts was not on the ground. Obviously, this is the downside of that play where you're on a pile of bodies. You're not on the ground, so you can't be called down either. So it's going to be up to the refs to say they believe you're down or not. I think, and of course, in a day that already sucked, being a Giant, if you are a Giants fan, obviously losing Cam Scadabo to a season-ending injury as well, and it's I like if I can totally relate to how pissed off Brian Daboll was. I'm not Brian Daboll's biggest fan. I don't like a lot of the time how he conducts himself on a sideline or even maybe sometimes in a press conference. But he was hot on Sunday after that call, and I could totally justify why he was. And he tried his best to get a review. They wouldn't let him review it because it's technically not reviewable. He tried to do another review saying the forward progress was stopped before the line to gain, and that obviously wasn't true. And it was a tough day for Giants in that sense.
Certainly was, and yeah, just touching on the Scadaboo thing, that's a really big loss. He's by far my favorite player in the league at the moment, and it is a great loss to the NFL, not just the Giants. I know I'm speaking like he's dead, but it's tough to see a player like that go down for the season.
I know what you mean. Yeah, well, I think unless there's anything else you want to add, I know it was a tough day for the Panthers at the weekend, going up against obviously a really strong Bills team, and when you're down your QB1, it's already going to be a tall task.
Yeah, Andy Dalton did not cover himself in glory at all in that game. I think he's a little bit past it now at this stage. But look, if we can get Young back relatively quickly, I know he has a high ankle sprain, which can be a bit difficult to estimate returns on. I think there's a few more winnable games on that schedule. Not in the next couple of weeks now, having to go up against the Bucks and the Packers in the next few weeks. That's going to be a rough little run of games, but yeah, later on in the season, I think there's some games to be won and hopefully some good football to be played. I think the main talking point coming out of that game at the weekend has been that Canales has finally admitted that Rico Dowdle is the number one back in the Carolina backfield at the moment, and that's about 2 weeks too late. But yeah, look, it's all positive.
Which is kind of tough on someone like Chuba Hubbard, who had such a great year last year.
Yeah, no, 100% I agree, and I can understand the mentality of trying to give him that kind of, like, obviously having a guy go for over 200 scrimmage yards in 2 games in a row. It's tough to take the ball off that hot of a hand and give it back to another guy, but they did give him that opportunity, and he just hasn't kind of lived up to it. Rico's been out rushing him for the past few weeks. Now, maybe things flip over towards the end of the season. Maybe Chuba Hubbard is not 100% at the moment. Who knows? But the NFL is a cutthroat game. You have to go with the hot hands sometimes. And yeah, Rico Dowdle is that at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned, tough games coming up for the Panthers. At Green Bay this Sunday. At home to New Orleans, which is going to be interesting because they just named Tyler Slough as their starting quarterback, replacing Spencer Rattler. So opportunity knocks there for sure, and especially like Spencer, just that game, he just looked like a lost child in that game against the Bucks at the weekend, and throwing that interception to the only D lineman that was in front of him as well it's something that you're not going to come back from. But then 2 away games against Atlanta and San Francisco, the way both teams are there at the moment, there's definitely,
some opportunities.
There's wins there. There's wins there, for sure.
And there's wildcard places available to this team. Like the NFC.
God, you're already thinking that.
They're a game out of a wildcard spot. Do you know who currently occupies the wildcard spots? The Bears. The Bears are currently in. So
yeah,
are the Bears catchable? Absolutely, they are.
Yeah, that was a tough sell though, or for the Bears. That seems to me for the Bears, they're in the same cycle that they're in every few years. They get a quarterback, they sack the head coach, the new head coach comes in, has to deal with that quarterback. Then they change the GM. Then that GM brings in the quarterback. That quarterback doesn't work with the head coach. That head coach gets sacked. Then they bring in a new head coach. It's the same cycle over and over and over and over again with the Bears. And it looks like it could be the start of it there now, because Caleb, after a bright start, did not look good at the weekend. And especially against a Ravens team whose defense has been extremely poor this year. And for the Bears defense themselves to allow themselves to lose that game against a Lamar Jackson-less Ravens as well, and a chance for them to sort of, really go, it would have been 5-2. They would have been on the same record as Detroit, would have been really commanding that opportunity for a wild card spot, or even taking one of the main playoff spots. But yeah, just such a huge opportunity missed again by the Bears.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. Caleb Williams has been too long in that system to be making the mistakes that he's making at the moment. So, yeah, I think they got to blow that franchise up, to be honest. Get rid of everybody, start from scratch. Like, literally a head coach, quarterback, running back, the whole shebang.
They only just brought in Ben Johnson.
Okay, maybe give Ben Johnson an opportunity to pick his quarterback and pick his offensive play style to fit his quarterback. But yeah, there has to be some level of cohesion there. Like you said yourself, we can't go new quarterback, new head coach, new quarterback, new head coach. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, and I'm not just salty on the Bears this week because DJ Moore cost me a bit of money, because he was the only one I needed to score a touchdown. And I think
why bet on DJ Moore this year? He's been ass.
I was expecting something, because I don't know why. I was just expecting the Bears to be able to actually score against the Ravens. And actually, to be fair, it was the fourth quarter. They were 4th and goal, and he actually had a wide open DJ Moore in the back of the end zone, and he missed the throw.
Ouch.
He missed the throw.
That is rough.
So, you know what? Fuck you all. Can't stand that. Anyway, I think that's where we're going to wrap up this edition of the show, talking about Dara's terrible exploits of trying to make money at gambling. Reid, as always, buddy, I appreciate you coming on and chatting some ball with me. Looking forward to seeing you on Sunday at training.
Yep, it's been a pleasure as usual, and I can't wait for session number 2.
Yeah, excellent. Before we go, this show and every show this season is brought to you by Rain Rocks Web Design. They are the team behind UCP.ie. Head over there for all the latest updates on our shows. It gives you AFI updates as well. So when the new season comes along, that is where you're going to want to be glued to for all your AFI league and tables updates when that comes along.
I hope there's a big banner on there at the moment that says "Breaking news: the return of Rain to the AFI."
I'm still trying to work out how to do those breaking news things. If I could, I would. But also the socials at UnderCenterPod on Instagram, on Twitter. Make sure you give us a follow there on that. If you're watching this on our YouTube, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment as well. Let us know who's been your most disappointing team so far this year. And it can't be the Jets, because everyone keeps saying the Jets. Give me someone else. If you're listening to us on the go and Spotify, give us a rating on that too. We really appreciate it. It all helps us in the algorithm, gets us out there for the masses, for more people to be able to listen to our dulcet tones and be able to talk about NFL stuff. And we talk like as if we know what we're talking about, and that's where we feel you. But until next time, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.